Hi everyone, this video is about how to improve your cursive writing. You can apply these tips for calligraphy, but mostly it's for everyday cursive writing. So I would recommend not using ballpoint pens like this or like a big pens or anything like that. They are really cheap, but they are detrimental because they don't work very well. So this is a pen I got from a hotel or something, and while they do write, the line quality is not very good, and it really feels like I'm not having fun at all. You see all these little weird jaggedy edges, and you gotta like kind of fight the paper. Sometimes it takes forever to start, and all this just leads to frustration on your part. And when you're writing, the last thing you want to do is be frustrated. You want to be happy when you're writing, and you want to be, it's supposed to be like a pleasurable tactile experience. Unfortunately, using these pens, I feel like I gotta press too hard, and that creates a bad habit. And just overall, it's not pleasurable. I mean, like, I've seen some pretty good work done with ballpoint pens, but see, it's skipping. But as a beginner, it's better to get rid of bad habits and start by using something better. So what I recommend is a gel pen. This is a Pilot G1, and you can buy these like anywhere. I got a box of these on eBay for like $2 each. They're a little more expensive than big pens, but I like them because they're very true to the lines that I'm making, so you won't see any of these skipping with a gel pen. And that's important because if you're in the process of writing a really nice letter, if the line skips halfway, it's so frustrating because you're like trying to make something good, but the pen betrays you. So the gel pen will not do that. Plus, you can write using a really light touch. I'm not applying any pressure, but the line quality is still pretty good. You can't really do that with a ballpoint. It just starts looking really sucky. So that's why we kind of like, press really hard when we're using a ballpoint to get a nice line, and that leads to bad habits like a death grip, or like you feel way too stressed when you're writing. Well, this is another pen. This is a Sharpie, and I wouldn't really recommend it either because I love Sharpies, but for everyday writing, I don't know, I just feel like it's not appropriate. First of all, it smells really bad, and just like a ballpoint, you gotta press to get a good line, and it's too much texture when you're writing. I feel like I'm fighting against the paper, and whenever you feel like you're fighting, you're not comfortable and you feel pressured. So basically what you want is a really stress-free environment. The best tool that you can use is a fountain pen. These are designed for like very relaxing writing experience. The lines are always beautiful. You can write even without any pressure. It's a little bit more high maintenance because you gotta do all the ink and cartridge stuff. I'm almost out of ink, but you don't have to buy an expensive fountain pen. You can get one for like 15 or 20 bucks, but it will last you forever. So if you can, get a fountain pen. But for this video, I'm going to be doing the tips using a gel pen. I find that I write differently depending on what tool I'm using. So if I was to use a ballpoint pen, I find that I have to press really hard to get anything decent. If I'm using a Sharpie, I have to slow down, because if I go too fast, I don't like that kind of line, so I have to slow down. Like that, I hate that line. So in order for the ink to seep into the paper, I slow down, which is so frustrating. When I'm using a gel pen, it's kind of slippery because these things can go crazy. So my writing also kind of suffers a little bit. Like when you see I'm using the Sharpie, it looks better than that. But the line quality is better in this. It's weird. Now if I'm gonna try a micron, it's similar. My dog is sulking. The best is if I use a fountain pen. I really like how the ink looks, and I really like how the pen feels. So I just tend to have, well, not really the best writing, but the most pleasurable experience. That's just my opinion. I'm using an Amici's Falcon extra fine. Another thing that I want to mention is the size of your pen point. So this one is 0.5, so I would recommend 0.5 or smaller. It doesn't have to be, too small or anything, but in this size is fine. The reason is, if you write using a large pen, it doesn't show your true ability. I don't really have a large broad pen, so I'm gonna demonstrate with a huge Sharpie. So let's say I want to write something. If you're using something like that for notes, first of all, it's way too thick. You can't see anything, and you cannot improve because half the time I have no clue what I'm doing. I cannot see where my point is. All my letters are filled in. I feel like I'm wearing a blindfold. To compensate for this, I would have to write a lot bigger. But nobody takes notes, in that size. This is like a poster size. And if you're using a broad pen like this, it's hard to tell the turns, like here and here and here. and see what you're doing right or wrong. Especially if you're trying to improve your handwriting. If you don't know what's right or wrong in the first place, it's hard to tell. Comparatively, if you're using a really fine pen, it leads, there is no space, there is no way for you to kind of cheat, because every line you can tell. Like this word broad, I would really have to be careful on where I'm turning and where I'm doing my lines, because like this, I can really tell the difference here. So you don't have to use something way too thin, fine, something way too broad. A 0.5 or is this fine. Sometimes I feel like a pen that's too fine like this is kind of stressful because you can see every little mistake that I've done, and you just want to write a letter. You're not doing a handwriting test. So if you're buying a fountain pen, you want to avoid the broads. That's what it's categorized as. Medium is fine. Not the broads. Medium is fine. Fine is the best. Extra fine, if you can find it. This is my favorite. This is okay too, but what you don't want are these extra board stuff. It's way too big. Unless that's like what you're used to, then go ahead. But if you wanna get rid of old habits and start to improve your handwriting, then let's go for extra fine. So the first thing that you want to look out for is how you're holding your pen. I've seen a lot of people hold their pens really weird. I mean, like, that's fine. We're not looking to be calligraphers, but however you're holding it, make sure you're not gripping too tight. When you're gripping too tight, immediately your writing becomes all constrained. So you want to be, make sure you want to relax a little and just lightly hold your pen. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay in your hand. Just make sure it's secure. You don't have to use all fingers, just 3, and go lightly. When you're not applying too much stress, your whole body feels free, and that makes your writing more beautiful. When you're really gripping like this, it will transfer from your fingers to your arms and to your body, and then you'll start gritting your teeth and you just feel like, oh, I'm so stressed right now, and you can't finish a letter because you just feel like you need to go work out or something. But if you're relaxed, you can keep writing on forever and ever, and that would also contribute to your ability to doing flourishes, actually. So make sure you're relaxed, and make sure you have space around your desk, and make sure there's not like stuff right next to you, because if there is, you're just gonna feel all constrained. So make sure your desk is also clear. Now that we're all relaxed, let's see how we're writing. So if you're writing like this, it's kind of too big. You want to look at the size of what you're doing. If you're writing too big, it's okay, but the trouble is you would have to compensate for all this space, and that leads to going a lot slower, and you can't get a good rhythm because you're just too stressed about filling up the entire space. And also when you're writing too big, your letters tend to get rounded. It's just human nature because of how our fingers are formed. When you're writing too big, it just tends to get rounded. Particularly if you're using finger movement, you're kind of constrained to this area. So in a way, you're limiting yourself. On the other hand, if you're writing too small, you're also constraining yourself because first of all, it's difficult to read, and you're gonna feel so claustrophobic. And sometimes when you're going too slow, you can't really control your handwriting because there's not much space to do anything in, So what you do want is somewhere in between this, a comfortable size, not too big, not too small. Another thing that you should look at is the space between your letters. So you want to have ample space between each letter. If you have been writing like this, that means it's way too tight and it's hard to read, and it's just kind of like scribbly and makes me feel stressed out just looking at it. You want to make sure that there is more than enough space. It's easier to read. It slows you down actually, which is good because as you slow down, you really think about what you're writing. Now I know you're thinking like, oh, if I'm taking notes, I want to go fast. Well, you can always go fast while leaving a good space in between your lines. So don't go fast like this. Go fast like this. There is a kind of script called running hand. So basically running hand is a kind of business script where there is a lot of space in between each letter. Sometimes, oops, whoa, it's hard. That was bad. This is good. It's harder than it looks. It trains you to slow down and to really think about the turns that you're making in your letters. So I was not used to doing this, so I need a little bit of practice. Yeah. Running hand is good if you're just looking to practice, but you will find that it really helps you and helps your cursive look more legible and more beautiful. There is another practice that you can do, and this is one that Michael Saul taught me. So basically, you want to have ample space in between your letters and another line underneath, absolutely parallel, and leave the same amount of space on all sides. So let's do 4. Okay, now turn the paper 90 degrees and do the same thing. It's a lot harder than it looks. So and you can see, I've made a mistake there. that was supposed to be horizontal, but it's not. It's a little better here. So this is fun. Try it, and it will help you practice spacing in between your letters. And this is by Michael Saul. And if you're looking to buy books about cursive, he has very good books about it. Sometimes you might find that when you're doing running hand, you might be running out of space, particularly if you're using finger movement. So finger movement means you're only using your fingers to move, and that your wrist does not move. So I'm going to show you what happens when you do that. So I'm not going to move my wrist, and that's only as far as I can go without faltering. So don't let that happen. If you need to, you can use finger movement, it's cool, but then you can move your wrist a little bit. Just shift. Don't be afraid of shifting. Even better, lift your arm a little bit. You see it's not touching the bottom, and only your little finger is touching the paper. That way the entire arm can glide as you write. And that feels a lot more comfortable than everything planted on the table to write. So consider, relaxing and, just using your little finger and just write. You can rest your forearm down, whatever's comfortable to you, Don't feel like you have to be too self-conscious about everything. As long as you're comfortable, your writing will be beautiful. So no matter what, comfort first. When I was starting to learn handwriting, she told us, under no circumstances are you allowed to lift your pen until you finish the sentence. And she would have like a ruler and come around, and if she sees you lifting your pen, back. Well, I guess it does help. It does help you train to create a cursive, because we're so used to writing in block letters. But if you write in cursive, all the letters should join, so you shouldn't lift your pen. But personally, I feel like if you want to, you can. It's not a big deal. Sometimes I lift my pen. You don't have to, but if you want, go ahead. I think of it as musicians playing a piece of music, like a violinist, playing a music, or singing a bar of music. We gotta like play the rhythm and then take a breath and then continue the melody. Nobody sings a song from start to finish without taking a breath. That sounds like that's way too stressful. So if you wanna take a breath, sure, breathe and then go back. It's okay to lift. You shouldn't lift in the middle and then go have lunch or something and then come back. Just a quick lift. Don't take too long or hesitate too much. You know, you want to keep the rhythm going. So that's my 2 cents about lifting. Here's another tip for improving your cursive, and I find that this tip helps me a lot. It's angle. Basically, when you're writing, you know, you want to keep an eye on the previous letter that you have written. So when I wrote this A, I've established that the angle is kind of like that. So I'm going to do the N in this same angle. And now I'm going to do the G in that angle. And the L in that. And the E. So whenever I'm writing something, I always keep an eye on the previous letter. If you do not do that, you will end up with all kinds of angles, especially if you kind of like develop a horse blinkers, you know, like you stop looking at the A and then you start concentrating on this N on its own terms, and then you forget about that N and you start doing the G on its own terms, and the L, and then you forget about all that and you're starting to do the E in your own terms. You'll come up with something a little crazy. By its own, these letters are beautiful, but altogether it doesn't look good. So make sure that whenever you're writing something, keep an eye on the previous one. You can use a guide sheet if you want, but when you're taking notes, you know, you don't want a guide sheet. So that's what I've established. So let's go with it. Remember? Yeah. That's my dog. It actually gets easier as you write more on the same sheet of paper, because now not only do I have the previous letter to refer to, I have all these others to give me the same angle idea. So the more you write on the same piece of paper, the easier it gets. So once we have established a good size, not too big and not too small, good spacing between our letters, not too tight. You could go too far, it's fine actually, but you know, we want to save paper, so not too far apart. That's my cat. I fed her, I don't know why she's crying. And a consistent angle between each letter. And once you established all three, you can work on rhythm and speed. You might find that you would go a little slower at first to get used to this. She's just curious. Now you don't have to do this, but once you become accustomed to writing, you know, well, you can add a little flourishes to your writing. So for example, if you're going to write a letter, maybe towards the end of the word, you can add a little swag, you know, something like that. Something like that. That means you have confidence in your writing. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it like in every sentence, you know, like maybe the top you can do it maybe here, but the body should be, you know, less flourished. Now I'm going to end the letter. Now here I can flourish a little. There. And maybe my name. Then you can add a little bit of personality and life to your writing. You can flourish up, you can flourish down, you can flourish side, you know, just play around with it. Once you have established these 3 points, you can then work on speed, because then you're used to it. You might find that you'll be going a little slow at first, but you know, once you keep writing more and more, you can establish a good handwriting rhythm. And this rhythm is pretty important when you want to write well, because if you're going too slow, you're not writing, you're kind of drawing, which is, you know, fine and all, but it lacks that rhythm. It lacks the swag, I call it. No swag. But once you go a little faster, it has more personality. I'm not saying go super fast. No, that's too much. You want a controlled speed. And once you get used to it, you can really work on your cursive to your benefit. I hope this video has helped. They are all very simple points, but you know, I think it would really help improve your handwriting. So for the end of this video, I'm going to be writing a quick poem utilizing all 4 of these, and so you can see what it looks like in action. So thanks again for watching, and I hope that this has helped.